Welcome to Copilots, the podcast where we review not just the first episode of a show,
but also the second. Some shows don't have the best pilot episode, and giving it a second chance might just change your mind.
Here we take that chance for you and let you know our opinion on if a show deserves more than one shot.
I'm Justice. Alongside me is my co-pilot Josh. Now, let's get ready for takeoff. Your in-flight entertainment this time will be Being Human. The US version. Should probably clarify that, right?
I mean, no, I think there's only one version of Being Human, and that's because the US version is strictly superior to the UK version.
You've never seen the UK version.
I've seen the first episode of the UK version.
Wow, you've seen one episode in a show that is 5 series.
Okay, so the actors just didn't have the, charm, charisma, or synergy of the American cast.
Yeah, because they did it first, so they were still working out the bugs.
Yeah, well, that's their fault. Never be an innovator, always be a copier. That's what I always say.
Yeah, that sounds like something you would do and support.
Let somebody else innovate and work out the bugs, and you can come along and iterate on their innovation and make it better so people remember you.
It's true. That's what all the best inventors and businessmen do.
Yeah, it's a tried and true patent to success.
You know what? You're not wrong. I can't blame you, but I can just say you're a douchebag and a piece of shit and be entirely accurate.
Also, even though this is branded as the US version of the show, it's actually Canadian. It's a Canadian cast by a Canadian production company, mostly filmed in Canada.
Except Canada's not real, so that doesn't really matter. It's just made up. It's TV made up land.
Then how do they film New York?
It's all green screen. Always has been.
Yeah, but it's green.
Insert meme of astronaut.
It's green screen over the background of Toronto. That's New York.
No, that's just the thing they made up, so you think they put more effort into movies than they actually do.
Everybody knows New York isn't real. It's just Toronto with a green screen.
Yeah, that's true, but Toronto's not in Canada. Don't think you understand. There is no city called New York. It's just Toronto. Toronto, New York. Everyone knows this.
You know, I had a whole joke queued up about it being the 21st night of September, but I don't know where to insert it or plug it.
You probably just shouldn't.
But it's the 21st night of September.
It's not.
It is.
No.
Yeah. Yes.
No.
Yes.
Why would it be the 21st night of September? That'd be implying we were recording this literally the night before it goes up. We would never do that. We are much too responsible to do that.
So, to peel the curtain back.
What's a curtain?
This is the 21st night of September. This episode goes live later today because it's past midnight. And, yeah.
So it's not the 21st of September. It's the early morn of September 22nd.
Night of 21st, early morning of 22nd. They kind of blend together. That's just how time works.
No. Time is very clear cut and linear. Everyone knows this.
I don't think anybody would actually agree with that statement.
I just think you're wrong. I don't like being wrong.
You know, Being Human is a U.S. television show featured on the Sci-Fi Channel when it was airing. You know, back when Sci-Fi spelled their name S-Y-F-Y, which I think they still do. And Being Human, U.S., has a 2-part opening episode. The first part is titled, There Goes the Neighborhood Part 1. And the second episode, which we'll get to, is entitled, There Goes the Neighborhood Part 2.
I was completely unaware of this. I did not pay attention to the names of the episodes.
That is why I exist.
Until you forget, and then you get upset.
I've never once forgotten to mention the episode name of a show. Never. That's not a thing that's ever happened.
I can find the audio from that.
You cannot find the audio from that. It doesn't exist.
Oh, is it just another thing where I've made up all of your lines with AI again?
It's like Canada. It doesn't exist.
Fair enough.
So episode 1 opens with a voiceover. And this voiceover tells us that every human spends a night or two on the dark side.
Yep.
And they live to regret it. But what if you only existed on the dark side.
Yeah.
What if there was no light side to be had? What if there was no going back?
What if the dichotomy of the Force did not constrain your entire existence?
It also further goes on to talk about how every person lies and hides something about themselves.
Yeah, it's just you wake up in the morning, you put on makeup, you take off the wedding ring, you do whatever.
Suck in your belly,
Yeah.
get a spray tan.
Tell some sort of lie in some manner.
And why not? Why shouldn't you?
And the entire time we're getting this voiceover, we are introduced to our two main characters to start the show. We see one of them walking down the sidewalk in a big city, and then he's walking through a forest.
Yes.
And then we see our other one on a date, walking with a girl back to someone's apartment. And he's being
Pretentious?
pretentiously douchebaggy deep, but actually still making a fair point.
And sounding like a serial killer all at the same time.
Yeah.
You know, just when the spark, the final light goes out of a living thing, it's beautiful. You
Yeah.
get what I mean, right?
Yeah, he's quoting, I think he said Sir Byron.
Yeah, Lord Byron.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the quote ends just as we see our being human title card.
Which
and then
lines up with the we all lie and why wouldn't you? We're all only human after all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we are back in the forest, but it's daylight now, and our guy who had walked off in the woods is naked, covered in blood, next to a massacred deer.
I wouldn't call it massacred. It's dead. But massacre, that might be overselling it. It's a dead deer.
I disagree.
It's okay.
And then
you can be wrong.
And then our pretentious guy is waking up in bed, well, next to a bed, covered in blood, because he's a vampire. He ate the lady from the date, and she went and died. You know the thing that happens when you get exsanguinated.
Yeah, and so it's not even morning for him. This is still nighttime.
We still see nighttime for him.
Because at nighttime for him, he's rocking on the ground. He didn't go to sleep. He's rocking on the ground and like sobbing, and calls a funeral home where he gives his name and is like, I need your help.
Yeah.
I need to clean up.
And so we see a box truck pull up, and there are two guys loading a long horizontal box into the back of it as Aiden watches from like behind a fence in an alleyway.
Yeah. You could almost say they're loading a coffin-esque box into the back of the truck.
Or you could just say a box like a normal person.
But it's coffin-esque.
It's a rectangular box.
Yeah, with a body in it. That makes it coffin-esque.
I mean, I can put bodies in things that aren't coffins.
Can you, though?
Yes.
Can you prove it?
Yes.
Where did you put the body, then?
Don't worry about it. You're not going to get me to confess on this fucking podcast. I know, like, come on. Really? You think you could get away with that?
I think I can get away with whatever I want to get away with.
I plead the fifth. You're going to get nothing from me. Ever. You can't prove a fucking thing.
Anyways, we then watch Sam.
Yes.
Sorry, Aiden.
Mm-hmm.
Who's played
Sam
by...
plays Aiden.
Sam also plays Josh.
Yes, he does.
Mm-hmm. We then watch Aiden watch the movers, like you said.
Yeah.
And from there, we go to him sitting in a car, nervously tapping on a steering wheel while the sun's shining.
Yeah. And then we go back to Josh,
who comes out of the forest
into a backyard.
He is, by the way, naked.
Yes. And he's looking for clothes, and he finds a clothesline, so he's going to pull some clothes off of it. And he's looking at a dress because it looks like the only thing that's going to fit him. There's just a child watching him. He takes the dress, runs, and we see him walking through the streets of Boston in a very brightly colored, flowery dress.
Technically, if anyone reported him, this would technically make Sam a child molester.
No, a sexual predator.
Yes.
Difference.
Yeah, that one.
Big difference.
Because he's running around nude in front of children.
Yes.
But then he takes the dress, like you said, and gets in Aiden's car.
Yeah, and Aiden laughs at him.
Yes.
After handing him actual clothes, a towel, water. You know, what you do when your friend randomly murders a deer in the woods at night.
To be fair, Aiden doesn't know he randomly murdered a deer. Aiden just knows he turns into a wolf and runs around once a month.
Yeah, but we, the viewer, didn't know that yet.
Fair enough.
And they go to work.
And they both work at Suffolk.
Suffolk. Suffolk.
Suffolk. I can pronounce it so well in my head, but my brain doesn't want to. My mouth doesn't want to pronounce it. Suffolk.
Yeah, I believe, or it's close enough.
County Hospital, which is in Boston.
Yes, Aiden is a nurse, and Josh is an orderly.
Indeed. And at their lockers, they're talking. Well, Aiden is trying to convince Josh
to get an apartment with him.
There's a better way to do this. There's a better way
to be human.
And Sam's like, oh, a better way to be monsters?
Yeah.
Sorry, Josh. Josh is like, a better way to be monsters?
To which Aiden says a better way to be human.
Yeah.
That's kind of really the only conversation they have as they're changing into their scrubs and putting their stuff away.
Yeah, and as they leave the locker room to go into the hospital proper, they run into a nurse. Her name is Kara.
And she's filling in for Rebecca, who is the woman that Aiden was out with the night before. The one, he murdered.
Yeah.
Not that Josh is aware of that. Josh just looks confused that Rebecca's not there.
Yes.
And then he curtsies to Kara to introduce himself.
Well, you say that, but you forget, like, the awkwardness that leads into him meeting Kara is, like, Aiden says something about Josh not getting laid in 2 years.
Yeah, as they're walking out.
And Josh is like, way to throw to my face that I haven't had sex in 2 years, just as they round the corner into car.
And then he's like, which is a total lie.
And then he curtsies, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. After this encounter with Kara, Aiden then sees the man who brought the box truck to Rebecca's apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And this man is attempting to recruit, in quotations, because recruiting as a vampire doesn't mean you're giving people options.
Yeah, it means you're turning people into vampires. I mean, you might be giving people options. It depends how you run your vampire. Horde, tribe, group, militia, army, coven.
What is a group of bats called? Because I feel like that's the right terminology.
Cloister.
Is that what a group of bats?
Nope, not that I'm aware of.
It was like, what do you call a group of bats? And you're just like a cloister, and I was like, oh, that makes sense.
No, I was just still listing things to call a group of vampires.
I like a parliament.
No.
A parliament of vampires.
No, if we're doing birds, the obvious one is to do a murder of vampires.
No, that's too obvious.
An unkindness of vampires?
An unkindness of vampires. I like that. Almost as much as I like parliament. Corvids are cool,
a
guys.
rigged judiciary court of vampires?
A congress of vampires.
I kind of just said that.
You know, I wouldn't be surprised.
Anyways, though, so Aiden sees this guy and he takes umbrage with the fact that the other vampire, whose name I cannot remember for the life of me.
Marcus.
He takes umbrage with the fact that Marcus is turning people in the hospital that he works at.
And he's like, hey, hospital, off limits. No recruiting here. And Marcus is like, yeah, but you gotta take it up with the bishop, not me.
And I'm aware that you're back now, Aiden, because Aiden killed someone and apparently he hasn't done that in quite a long time.
But there's a new order of things. It's
at the
bishop
top is bishop.
and then it's me. And Aiden's like, yeah, I wouldn't want to upset all those years you spent getting your nose firmly implanted into Bishop's ass.
Yeah, and also, I'm not back. Which,
don't call it a comeback.
I was gonna say, let's be clear here, Aiden just has lines of, like, a retired, like, super agent or, like, super spy in an action movie where he's been pulled out of retirement but refuses to acknowledge that for, like, 75% of the movie.
Oh, so he's just Bruce Willis in Red.
Yeah, basically. It's just like, I'm not back.
Don't call it a comeback, because I'm never coming back. Fuck you guys.
So after this little skirmish, basically,
we're back in the locker room.
Because they're shoving each other around.
Or is this the bench?
This is the bench outside. Mm-hmm. Josh and Aiden are sitting outside on their lunch break, actively discussing getting an apartment together so they, they can pretend to be human and pretend to be normal.
Well, this all kicks off with Josh being like, hey, were you for real?
Yeah, like,
do you really want to do this?
And it's just like, yeah, man, like, why shouldn't we try it? We can keep each other in check, and also we can be ourselves around each other.
So they
talk about just how it's a bad idea, basically, but the points that they point out aren't directly tied to them being vicious, unhuman beasts.
It's tied to the fact that Aiden refuses to clean.
Well, Aiden doesn't do dishes, to which Josh is like, you don't eat. And he's like, I don't clean. And then Josh responds with saying he has OCD, and he's like, yeah, also I have horrible credit. They're just discussing, like, normal things-ish.
Aiden, the vampire, has horrible credit. Let's keep, not Josh.
Oh, did I say Josh? My bad.
No, it was just left ambiguous.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And so they go looking for an apartment. And then they find one.
Yeah.
The one they find was previously lived in by an engaged couple, and Josh and Aiden essentially get to, like, tour the house by themselves.
Mm-hmm. And Josh really likes the place. Like,
it has a view of a property that has a view of the water.
Yes.
Honestly,
look at those windowsills. You could put a pie on them.
If you were an 80-year-old grandmother.
You could, yeah.
They have amazing chemistry. I love it.
I would agree.
But
so Josh is
Josh is
overzealous about the place.
Too excited.
And Aiden's trying to be like, calm down. We don't need to let them know that. But at no point does Aiden clearly state, hey, play it cool so we don't get our rent jacked up. He's just like, you gotta calm down, man. It's fine. You gotta calm down. It's just like, just express you don't want him to fuck up your rent situation here. But they don't do that.
So they step outside to talk with the owner of the apartment.
Yes.
And it's a young man named Danny. And they have a little bit of back and forth where Aiden, like, keeps trying to point out flaws in the apartment, and Josh is like, yeah, but
we can deal with that, or it adds a vibe.
What are weekends for but fixing up the apartment we're renting?
Yeah.
And finally, Danny's like, there was a couple that lived here. They were trying to fix it up, but things didn't work out.
Yeah.
And it comes to light that the fiance, the woman, died in the apartment, which freaks Josh out.
He's like, you have said something.
And then Josh is a little rude, just like not. It wouldn't necessarily be rude, except we find out that Danny, the landlord, was the fiance.
Yeah.
Is that the right term? I know they're spelled differently, but they're both fiance, right?
He was the other person involved in the engagement.
Yes. And he just really, like, doesn't want to go back in that place if he doesn't have to.
Which is why he didn't go inside with them to look it over. And he's willing to get the pipes fixed and do anything else. He just
let them have the furniture in there because he doesn't want reminders of the relationship. And
they're both just looking kind of iffy on it.
And he doesn't care about credit scores.
To which Aiden lets out a big sigh and just nods his head and looks over at Josh.
And then we get a montage of them moving in.
Yeah, which the montage is mainly just
carrying tables.
No, it's literally just two things. It is these two activities intercut together. It is Josh mopping the kitchen floor and them carrying a singular table to the apartment because it's the same table they ever shot, which feels like they carried it so far from wherever they picked it up off the side of the street because it is not a new table.
It's got charm to it though.
Yeah, but they did not pay for that table. They found it somewhere.
Or they overpaid for it because it's a major city and they bought it at like a consignment shop.
I feel like they found it somewhere.
So having fully moved in, Josh is fixing himself breakfast one morning before they're going to work, and then he sees a shadowy figure move through the living room and up the stairs.
I mean, he drops an egg and then says, the upside to having your own place is when you make a mistake in the kitchen, there's no one around to see it. He's going to put the egg back on his plate. He disgusts me.
I don't know why that disgusts you. He eats raw living animal, like an egg that fell on the floor.
The package of the animal, pretty good about keeping bad germs out.
Yeah, but he eats the package too.
I mean, not necessarily. I've never seen him cough up a hairball. I don't think he does. I think he just rinses it with his claws and then eats.
No, he definitely does.
No.
He's had like fur and stuff splattered on his face.
That came from the rending process to open the container.
In case you're unaware.
Sometimes you try to open a bag of chips and it splatters everywhere. I don't eat the chips off the ground. I eat what's left in the bag.
In case you're unaware, either because you don't remember or this is your first episode of Copilots, Justice and I have talked about the show before. Not like in depth like this. Being Human is easily one of my, if not my favorite TV shows of all time. The US version.
Yeah.
So when I say he was woken up with fur on his face, I'm referencing future episodes.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't happen in this one.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a reminder. And yes, we are cheating. We're breaking our own rules. We're reviewing a show we've seen before. But it's because it's Halloween time, guys.
Also, it's our rules. Fuck you.
It's Halloween time. We're reviewing spookum shows like Being Human US.
Look,
Being Human UK.
Look, if I want to take this plane and point it directly at the ground, you can't stop me. I'm in control. I'm the one flying it. You're just stuck in your seat, hoping I drop the oxygen masks.
Fuck, Justice. That got dark. That got dark fast. Okay. So he sees a shadowy figure.
I mean, so does Josh this morning. He goes from fixing a nice, happy breakfast in his new apartment to thinking someone's broken into his house.
To thinking that a drug addict has broken into his house.
To finding out that it's a ghost that he now lives with.
Yes, and he's very not okay with the ghost, but Aiden takes it very much in stride.
Yeah, Aiden's seen ghosts before.
To be fair, also I think like the amount of usage they get out of a house is very different for Josh versus Aiden.
Yeah, for Aiden, it's a place to sleep.
Does Aiden even need a sleep?
Yes, he sleeps. We see him sleep. He doesn't need to do it, but he is capable of doing it, and he does choose to. We don't see him do it in any of these episodes again. That's the future thing.
So, like, Josh really needs a house based on the fact that 29 days out of the month he's human.
Yeah.
27 out of every 28 days he's human.
Mm-hmm.
And Aiden, not so much. He needs a place to shower.
And a place to heat packages of blood.
And a place to get mail delivered, I guess, and to use as an address on his nursing job.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Sally is the fiance.
Yep.
And she died here. And she's also played by Sam.
Yes, that's not true.
Now, she's played by Megan Rath. Gonna ruin your bit about the Sams.
I mean, it's fine. They had no idea about my bits about the Sams.
Yeah, that's fair.
That never existed.
That existed in an alternate timeline. But no, Sally is played by Megan Rath.
Yep.
The vampire and werewolf are played by Sam's Witwer Whitwer and Huntington, respectively.
Yes.
Whitwer is the vampire, Huntington's the werewolf.
And Whitwer's cool. He also does D&D stuff.
Yeah, he wrote a D&D book.
Mhm.
Not like a book R.A. Salvatore writes, but like the type you use to actually play the game.
Yeah, he wrote it with his brother, didn't he?
Yeah, the useful type of D&D book.
Agreed.
Shots fired at R.A. Salvatore.
Oh no.
Come at me.
But yeah, so we are basically just giving a crash course on how ghosts kind of work, mainly through the lens of Aiden explaining things to Josh, but also explaining things better than Sally, because Sally has only been a ghost for 6 months.
Mm-hmm. And importantly, she doesn't remember how she died.
Yep, and normal people can't interact with ghosts or see ghosts.
Which means
supernatural things can, though.
Which means this is the first time in 6 months she's had somebody who can reply to her in a conversation.
Yeah, so she's really happy about that.
Yeah, so now it's a ghost, werewolf, and a vampire all living together.
Yeah, and Josh is freaking out because, well, there's a ghost who can just poof around his house and peep on him. And to which, when he accuses Sally, she says she never peeped much.
She brings up a mole that is somewhere in Josh's underpants.
We don't know if it's in his underpants. It could be under his pants, but not in his underpants. It could be like at the shin.
The implication.
Yeah, but it could be on his shin.
Fair enough. We also find out here that Josh was studying for med school.
Yeah, he was in pre-med.
He was pre-med, yes. Josh also freaks out. He doesn't freak this part out in front of Sally. It's when him and Aiden are in the locker room together that day getting ready for work. He's like, we can't live with a ghost. Our house is supposed to be the one place where we don't have to be monsters.
Yeah, I would like to point out before that, though, this situation between the three does not resolve well. Josh freaks out and it's just like, just leave, haunt your fiance.
Mm-hmm.
To which Sally says she can't leave, and Aiden also says she can't. And Josh is just like, well, figure something out.
Yeah, because he doesn't want a ghost roommate. Because the apartment is the one place they're supposed to be able to be not monsters, and having an additional monster around all the time is going to make it hard to not be monsters, even though I don't think ghosts should qualify as...
Yeah.
I don't think normal ghosts should qualify as monsters.
Yep.
There is definitely ghosts later on in the series that should probably qualify as monsters.
Agreed.
Like the Reaper.
Yeah. So during this interaction between Josh and Aiden in the locker room, as they finish getting dressed back into normal clothes, because apparently this is like at the end of their day. No, it's before their shift starts, I guess.
Yes, because
as they're talking, Aiden leads Josh out of the locker room and through halls and through catacombs.
It makes sense when you think about it, because Suffolk Memorial County Hospital, whatever it is the third oldest hospital in the entirety of America.
Yeah, also, like, they're not really catacombs, they're just old rooms that are...
and cellars and so on.
Made of stone, so it looks catacomby, but it's not really.
And he finds a room that I would describe as maybe like a mental patient style room. Maybe.
I guess.
The door is really small. I don't know what else you're doing with a door that thick.
It's a metal door with a viewing window on it.
And the door is like 6 inches thick.
Yeah,
at
but
least.
The room itself weirdly has a pole in the middle of it, which sounds not good for the construction of that, but the pole is metal and the rest of the main superstructure appears to be made of concrete and or block.
I assume
so
that
it's entirely possible the metal pole was added later to keep up with support of the building above it. At the building degraded, who knows?
That's exactly what I assume. I assume it's a support for the larger hospital above.
Yeah, but Aiden found this room where he's suggested that Josh can turn into a werewolf at because the hospital just recently cleared this entire area for renovations, but it's going to take forever anyways.
Yeah, because it's bureaucracy. It's going to be years before they actually manage to end up using this area.
Yep, and Josh calls it a cage and seems unsure about it.
Which is funny because he doesn't want to be out in the wild where he can hurt somebody.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, he feels weird about being caged once a month.
Yeah. And then we're back with Aiden trying to do his nursing job. He's just upstairs and we see him walk out of a hallway and he's removing an apron and gloves.
Yeah, because he was tending to a gunshot wound patient.
The GSW just come in, they're taking them to surgery, but he is just one of the responding nurses at the entrance, it seems.
And all the blood has him flashbacking to Rebecca and the night he murdered her.
Yep.
And then Kara interrupts his thoughts. Well, he
just
is
awkwardly to basically ask him out to a drink.
Yeah, and not only is she interrupting his thoughts about murder essentially, but also he's very, very close to just losing control. He's almost hyperventilating.
Yeah.
He's sweaty. He's having trouble breathing, which does he need to breathe?
Who knows? But so she realizes she's making things very awkward, and she apologizes, and she's had like 100 cups of coffee because she's been making coffee for the cops. And every time she makes them a cup of coffee, she drinks one with them so they don't think she has anything to hide.
Because she totally killed Rebecca to get Rebecca's job.
Yep, I believe it.
You know, nursing's a highly competitive field, and sometimes you just have to murder somebody to get their job. Although, from what I understand about the actual nursing field, is even though the schooling is highly competitive to get into,
Yep.
there are so many jobs and not enough nurses.
Yeah, it's almost like they try to pay you as little as possible and treat you like shit. Weird. It's like every other part of the capitalist system.
Medicine shouldn't be part of capital.
I agree.
So,
when she mentions that the police are here, Aiden looks over at what looks to be a sergeant, I guess, I think, if I read his
a
uniform
higher
correctly.
ranking police officer.
Yeah, and he seems suspicious. But then we're back with Josh.
And Josh arrives home where Sally is like, I have an idea on how I can leave. Maybe. I need to resolve my issues with Danny.
So I need you to call him to come look at the pipes.
And like Josh, he's overwhelmed in the moment. He's like, look, I had a really bad day at work and I just need time to decompress and relax before I do anything else. He's like, as soon as he walked in the door, she was in his face.
Yeah.
And like, it's differently weird to have a ghost in your face. It's weird in a very different way to have a ghost in your face because ostensibly you can just walk right through them.
Yeah.
But like on the level of rudeness, where does that scale? And Josh doesn't want to like have to do these mental gymnastics right now. He just wants to have a beer.
Yeah.
And relax.
He wants to have a beer and relax because, one, he's been confronted with the fact that he has a ghost roommate, been shown a room where he can wolf out, but he sees it as a cage. And also during work, he caught sight of someone, we don't know who yet, but someone that he recognizes and then immediately fled from.
Indeed.
So while he's busy trying to have a beer and relax, he's just like, I just need a little time alone, which I can't do because you're always here. And Sally's just like, well, I can't do anything about it. And he's just like, well, try. So they just end up arguing, and in her rage, Sally Thanos snaps away because that's what she does when she disappears, because she can disappear and poof around.
Marvel really just stole that effect.
And she doesn't really be able to seem to control it yet. So she gets very angry and kind of just dissipates. And when she does, a folding chair on the other side of the table falls over.
Based on the first time this happens for her, when she's really excited in the room,
yes,
when they first confront her, I don't think she dissipates because that implies that she apparates somewhere else. I think she just like disincorporates because
that's really the correct term. I just didn't think of it when I wanted to say something.
Because her voice is still in that room, but she has no physical presence.
She has no visual presence on a supernatural spectrum of vision.
Yeah, because she's disincorporated.
Yeah.
Which really begs the question, like, how much of that room can she still interact with, see, and hear?
What does she see and hear inside everything inside the house when she disincorporates?
They really never address some of these questions.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, some of these questions I didn't have until we started reviewing the episode.
And then, after that, Josh looks annoyed, drinks some of his beer, and we're back with Aiden, who is being interviewed by police
Before we
officers.
jump back to Aiden, when she does disincorporate here, it is the first time that we see she physically interacts with an object.
Yes.
Because when she disincorporates, she does so with enough force that the folding chair that was in front of her
falls over.
Collapses and falls over. Yes. That's important.
I mentioned the chair falling.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
My bad. But yeah, Aiden, cops.
One of the cops seems to have a hard-on for pinning this on Aiden.
His name's Tim. Officer Tim.
Because everyone at the hospital knows that Rebecca had a thing for Aiden, and that maybe there was something more there, even though the Aiden's saying no. And from what we understand, this was like supposedly their first date, so.
It is, this cop is a really good demonstration of cops, though, because he's like, so when was the last time you were at Rebecca's apartment? And Aiden's like, whoa, I never said I was at her apartment.
Yeah. He's like, so you were never at her apartment? He's just like, no, I haven't been ever. The cop's just like, yeah, sure.
Well, like, that's like a very cop question, though. When were you last at this place? Implying that you've been there, so. Ever, yeah.
So as he's trying to pressure Aiden into saying something, the other officer, the higher ranking one, reaches over and taps the guy on the wrist and says, Aiden didn't do this.
And initially, Tim is confused by that statement.
And then the other cop locks eyes with Tim, stares him down, and says, Aiden didn't do this. Now you're going to go wait in the car and forgot you were ever here.
Indeed.
And the guy does, because vampires.
And then
hypnosis.
Aiden and Bishop have a long conversation.
That's the name of the other cop.
Yep, have a long conversation, which mostly centers around the fact that Aiden is now eating out of plastic bags.
Yep.
Bishop doesn't like that. Bishop wants Aiden to come back into the fold and rejoin
Aiden,
the parliament.
Bishop is certain Aiden's back. Aiden says he isn't back. Bishop says he should be back because he's the best. Aiden says he shouldn't be back because being the best at being a vampire is not a good thing, basically. And then Bishop says, well, you can't do some things without us, so you should come back. And Aiden's like, but I don't want to do those things anymore, so I'm not going to come back.
And Bishop's like, well, you did those things anyways. You needed us to clean up your mess, so really you kind of are already back.
And then Aiden just says no.
And then Aiden's like, that was an accident. It won't happen again. And basically they talk in circles just like that.
Yep.
That.
That's really kind of just it.
Oh, yes. Because then Aiden goes home.
Yep.
And Josh is back at the hospital.
Yeah. And
so Aiden goes home and Sally is like, look, I've spent all day trying to leave.
And I can't.
And like, the thing is, I don't know if she can't like physically.
Well, she says here that she sticks a toe outside, but she can't like go any farther than that.
But like, it doesn't necessarily mean it's physical, because the way she describes it is she can't go outside because she's afraid. She's afraid that like if she steps outside,
she'll just blow away, or she won't be able to find her way back, or what. Yeah.
Yeah, like, so it's not a physical thing that's holding her back to the house, which, based on other things in the series, I would have kind of assumed, like, she is bound to the house at this point in her ghostdom, but it is a mental block more than anything.
I mean, it's definitely not necessarily a mental block. Does one arguably still have a mental when they're dead?
If you still have a consciousness, then yes. Mental doesn't necessarily...
I'm aware.
Yeah.
I was asking a dumb question because I could.
Well, I mean, it's not a dumb question. Like,
yeah, but it's not a actually question I want to have a conversation about because it wasn't meant to be taken seriously.
Fair enough.
She clearly does because it affects her.
And Aiden tries to reach out to comfort her because she's basically having a breakdown on the couch, and she is still comforted by it, but like his hand just kind of goes through her because ghost.
And she's like, I just want to see him again. And we leave from there, and Josh is back at work.
He's got a bag and he's trucking through the hospital with his headphones on, listening to... No.
He is in his scrubs. He is still trucking through the hospital, but very tense, taking like a deep breath. He steadies himself and then walks into a patient room.
Where we can hear two women giggling.
Yes.
And it is his sister, Emily.
Yes.
And her girlfriend.
Mind you, we still don't learn that this is his sister. So like the next conversation between the two.
Fair enough.
He sees them. He stands there for a moment and then turns to leave, but his sister notices him and she just says his name and he tries to take off, but that doesn't super work.
Yeah, she's like, we've been worried about you for 2 years.
You just up and disappeared. Like, where did you go?
Did you ever think maybe it wasn't the right thing to tell Jewish parents not to worry? Because he left a note saying not to worry, which kind of like just sounds like a suicide note. Hey guys, don't worry.
Yeah.
I'm gonna disappear now. But he basically pleads with her and is like, look.
Does not tell anyone that he's here. He's just like, it's great seeing you. I missed you a lot. I care about you, but like my life's different and none of you guys are in it, basically.
And it's different in a way that I can never explain to you.
Yep. And then Aiden has a flashback again because he's still really craving that sweet, sweet human juice.
Because, and this comes out over the length of the first season at least.
Yeah.
Blood is heroin. It's just heroin. Vampirism is an analogy for drug addiction.
Often is in media.
Yeah, I mean, in modern day, yeah. That's like, and honestly, Being Human is the best portrayal of vampirism as an addiction. Because not only does like Aiden have to cut off all the people who he was friends with, who like, you get it.
I just don't understand why we're talking about this when we both agree that's fine. We can do this episode even though we've seen it before. The consensus was we still wouldn't talk about things outside of the first episode.
Because even this episode like leans into
but like not super a lot.
Fair enough. But he's having flashbacks to a time him and Bishop walked into a wedding
and then just ate everyone except for a little girl. Maybe it's unclear.
She crawls out of the table when Bishop stops laughing. She thinks he's gone, only to see Aiden right in front of her. Aiden makes eye contact.
He's super blood drunk, just chilling.
And then the flashback ends.
Yep. So then we have Josh trucking through the hospital with headphones on and a hoodie on and a backpack.
Yes. And he's trucking through the hospital, music blaring, he can't hear. And he passes his sister Emily, who sees him. And she's like, Josh. But he can't hear her because music. So she follows him.
Yeah.
And where is he going? But to his cage.
Yeah, because we haven't made it clear. So it took them a month to find an apartment, which means it's almost another full moon. And then we are literally told when we see Aiden and Josh in the room the first time that the next night is the full moon.
Yes. And that he could change here.
Yep.
Also in that scene, Aiden breaks off the door handle on the inside of the room. So Josh, as a werewolf,
Cannot get out.
And Aiden will come and let him out in the morning. So Josh gets down into his little cage and he starts like
Taking
prepping
off
up
his jacket, getting ready to take off his button-up shirt, sets his backpack down.
And then his sister walks in and is like, Josh?
And he's like, wait, what the fuck are you doing? You can't be in here. You have to go. Leave. Please get out.
And the two of them get into an argument and he's like trying to make her leave.
She gets as far away from the door as she can.
And he's starting to change, but not like the physical changes aren't happening yet. He's in pain though. And he tries to like shove her out of the door, but she sidesteps and like slams the door shut.
Yeah.
And is now locked in a concrete box with a werewolf.
Yeah. So he starts panicking and she's still trying to comfort him and he's just like, get away from me. Stay away. And he walks off to the corner, pulls out his phone and calls Aiden.
But Aiden's phone doesn't get answered.
Because Aiden is now off with Bishop.
Because essentially Bishop has like guilted Aiden into coming with him. He's like, look, if you're going to accept our favors, you have to at least like come with me and let me show you something.
He implies that what he has to show Aiden is important in relevance to Rebecca, the girl he drank and killed.
Yeah, but instead it is a blood den, which is where humans who want to eventually be vampires
think drugged in, but for blood. There are people you can get a fix from.
Yeah, but those people are hoping to later be the addicts rather than the drug.
Maybe. Who knows? That would be an assumption based off of future information you don't have in this first episode.
It's also an assumption I would make just based off the fact that humans are willingly trading their blood.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm just saying, like...
Although it does appear that being fed up on is...
pleasurable in some
for
form.
humans as well. Which makes sense. There's another series...
a lot of vampire things do it.
Yeah.
A lot of vampire things do it.
Yeah.
So Aiden has handed over his jacket to a concierge, basically, and is thus separated from his cell phone, so he cannot pick up when Josh calls.
So Josh, not getting an answer from Aiden, proceeds to call the apartment.
And to both Josh
because they
and
have
Aiden...
a house phone.
Yeah. And to both Aiden and the house phone, Josh leaves basically the same message. It's, hey, I'm in the room, and I'm, and my sister's here, and if no one can come and let her out, I'm going to kill her.
Except
I
when
don't want to, but I'm going to kill her.
Except when he calls the apartment phone, he very much directly makes it for
he
Sally.
Adds addendums for Sally, basically. It's just like, hey,
I need you to find me.
Or Aiden.
Yeah.
I know you can't leave the house, but I need you to try, please.
And then we're at the blood den.
Yep.
Aiden is beginning to feed. Bishop is nearby, but not feeding himself. And then we cut back to the cage, and Josh's fingers are turning into werewolf claws, and his mouth is kind of extending.
And he groans and growls in pain, and his sister steps back, and that's the end of the episode.
Roll credits.
So what are your thoughts on episode 1 of the US version of Being Human?
This first episode does a lot to, like, get me invested in the characters.
Yeah.
They all have, like, hooks and chemistry, and, like, there's this overlap between what it means to be human and what it is to be a monster that, even in this first episode, is being thoroughly explored.
Agreed.
On top of that, going into the show, not really familiar with Sam Witwer or Sam Huntington. And honestly, that was true the first time I saw the show, and it's kind of true now. I know more roles for Sam Witwer than Huntington. Witwer was in Battlestar Galactica and Smallville and all these things. But Mark Pellegrino, the person playing Bishop, he is my favorite actor who has found a niche, and that niche is asshole villain.
Yeah, it's the preeminent dick.
And I love him. He is such a good person in that role.
Yeah, he also plays Lucifer in Supernatural.
The uncle of Robbie Amell's character in that superhero show I forget the name of. That was pretty okay.
Sense8?
No, Sense8 was a Netflix show. This was a CW show.
I'm just trying to think of things that you tell me to watch that I don't care about.
It was technically a reboot of like a 70s or 80s show. Yeah, but grittier and darker because... Anyways, Pellegrino, amazing. Love him as a villain. He is so good. That said...
Understandable.
Between Pellegrino and the cast's chemistry and like the parallels between monsterisms and human struggles. Yeah, I would watch more of this show. I love it. Like this is exactly my type of thing.
Fair enough.
It's artsy enough to be compelling from that standpoint.
Yeah.
But it's teen drama enough to be compelling from that standpoint. And really, that's like my Venn diagram. Like,
yeah, I've noticed.
What about you? What do you think of Being Human episode 1?
I think it's fine. Episode 1 by itself doesn't necessarily hook me, but I enjoy the characters enough. Honestly, the weakest part of episode 1 for me is probably Sally's character, because she really doesn't have a lot of screen time compared to Josh and Sam, who are obviously our two other main main characters, so Sally does feel a bit weaker.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily badly done. And the show doesn't, despite being a show where the two main characters are a werewolf and a vampire, they don't like throw that in your face too much, I guess. Like they mention it often. As Sally says in their house, it's all Josh talks about. It's all he just wanders around the house and whines about how he wishes he wasn't a werewolf, basically.
Yeah.
Not incorrect. But the show doesn't just focus on that and throw that back at our face for the majority of the episode. A lot of it is really more on their interpersonal struggles with the people around them. For Aiden, it's with Bishop, and for Josh, it's very much with his sister. And then they're just struggling of adapting to a new life. Like, you could probably pull out the vampire and werewolf bit and it'd still be fine.
It's still very much a show about two people who are at like their rock bottoms trying to come together and support each other. And that's still compelling TV.
Yep.
It's just more compelling when there's fangs and claws.
If it wasn't a werewolf and a vampire, Sally wouldn't be a ghost. It'd just be you found out you have a random, like, crazy guy living in your attic.
You just found out that when your landlord said apartment comes as is, he meant, oh, there's a third person living here, but if I tell you that, you won't rent from me.
Yeah.
Which, honestly, compelling TV would still watch.
Yep.
But yeah, that brings us to episode 2.
There Goes the Neighborhood Part 2.
Why would you do that to me?
Because I could.
I know you're trying to prove a point, but fuck you.
I wasn't trying to prove a point. I literally just did it out of spite.
Yeah, but you were talking earlier about how I get upset when I don't get to do it. So obviously,
so I did. You're right.
So obviously, this is you trying to prove a point.
Sure.
And fuck you. This episode opens with Sally monologuing instead of Aiden.
And a montage.
Yeah. And it's a montage of how each of them became their monsters.
Yeah.
There's a montage of Sally falling down a staircase, or not yet. We just know she's dead. She's
we just know she's dead. So when we see Sally, we see a close-up on her face, slowly panning out, and we see blood just leaking from the back of her head across the tile floor.
Mm-hmm. And we see Josh at a campground. He's bloodied. He's got slashes through one of his arms
and shoulder.
And then there's a dead body next to him that's been brutally mauled.
And it seems like there might be some more dead bodies off in the background.
Mm-hmm.
And Aiden is fighting in the Revolutionary War for the colonies.
Yeah, because he's a good guy.
Mm-hmm. Where he sees another colonist look at him, and then the guy's eyes go black.
Yeah.
And then we see Aiden snapping awake on a pile of dead bodies, but with the same black eyes.
Okay, so I know I'm supposed to be disregarding the future 3 seasons of TV I have in my brain.
But you're not going to?
I am, but like, I just want to go back to episode 1 real fast, because they do a really good job of showing physically the difference between a vampire who feeds on live and Aiden on his blood bag diet when he's sitting across from Bishop.
Yep.
Bishop's eyes are clear and intensely blue. His skin is red and has a lively tone to it.
Yeah.
Aiden is deathly pale. His eyes are super dark.
The skin around his eyes is red and worn, like he hasn't slept in days.
Yeah. And this is all tiny things to build up the difference between Aiden's pure, like, sober lifestyle and the rest of the vampire's default lifestyle. And you really don't appreciate that until later in the series, but like just the stark contrast that they did in episode 1 is very good. Sorry.
Yeah.
But like you said, that it was you talking about Bishop's black eyes in this flashback that did it for me. That reminded me.
Understandable. So the monologue we have overall, this is basically Sally just unequivocally saying, man, it kind of sucks to be a monster. No one else can really relate to you. And even you don't really know what's going on. It's terrifying. And I think she then questions why anyone would even want to be one. When Rebecca snaps awake, yes, that dead girl snaps awake in what looks like a coroner's office.
It's probably the mortuary,
like,
embalming room.
True, they would assume they look pretty similar. And Bishop is there with her, and he tells her that he'll just be so happy that she's here now.
Aiden will be happy that she's here now.
Yeah, he says he at first, and then she's like, what? And he's like, Aiden, he's gonna be very happy and pleased with this. And she's confused and scared and just starts calling out for Aiden, who is not there.
Then we jump back to that basement room, the cage.
Yep.
Emily is telling Josh that he is scaring her, that she's terrified, but he screams for her to stay away.
Yep.
And in a moment of clarity, while Aiden is feeding, he like steps back from this woman that he's drinking the blood from.
And you can see in a gap in this curtain, because they draw a curtain around the feeding area when they're feeding. He sees Bishop, and it seems to startle him out of it a bit.
Because Bishop has like this shit-eating smirk on his face.
I was right, you were wrong grin.
And Aiden like kind of snaps back, and then he hears his phone.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets his phone and hears the message from Josh, and then
he takes off. Vampires have super speed in this world.
celerity,
Mhm.
potence, a little bit of presence.
Yeah.
These terms all make sense if you understand World of Darkness.
Particularly Vampire the Masquerade.
Yeah.
Or Vampire. Doesn't have to be the Masquerade.
And Aiden gets there just in the time to save Emily from the cage.
Yeah.
And then they watch Josh transform.
Yep, honestly, it's a pretty good effect. The sound and audio design for it's really good.
Yeah.
And the sternum piece, because I think they actually use prosthetics for like the very beginning stages of the transformation, then finish it with CGI.
A lot
of things do that.
I will say this. I don't know what the transformation scenes in the UK version of the show look like, but the transformation scenes in this version of the show feel like they are heavily inspired by American Werewolf in London.
Yeah, the
Preeminent classic werewolf movies.
the transformation where your bones break and snap and it's pure agony the entire time. You can heal your insides rearranging, feel your body contorting in a fiery pain to form this beast that is not you, but shall control your existence for the next night.
As a human who never has gone through a transformation like that, I have, though, had growing pains where the growing plates in my legs were growing at such a speed that it was physically painful.
Wow, that sounds like that wasn't what the payoff, was it?
Oh, definitely not. At 5'7", not worth the pain I endured. That said, if that's what growing inches over the span of weeks and months feels like, I cannot imagine the sheer pain of having your body completely rearranged from a biped to a quadruped.
Yeah.
Like that, all I can think is, man, growing pains hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine that, but accelerated and multiplied to the nth degree.
Yeah. So Aiden takes Emily up to like
The cafeteria.
the cafeteria of the hospital, and she's just like trying to get information from Aiden about what's going on with Josh.
Also, she's heavily rationalizing this.
Yeah.
Like, Josh literally just transformed into a werewolf.
She didn't see that part though. She saw him crying out in pain on the ground, aggressively telling her to get away. When Aiden takes her out of the room, he throws her against the wall. Not too harshly, but not softly either. And then he stands in the way. I assume he does not let her see anything that happens.
Fair, but he did have claws and like...
She didn't see the claws though.
I know. I understand. I feel like she might have seen a little bit, but she
didn't.
That's not how I've ever interpreted this.
She didn't see a single fucking thing at all.
Okay, I believe you.
She just heard bone crunching and a guy in pain.
To be fair, hearing bones crunch like that should be enough.
Oh yeah, no, that should be enough to be like, there's something wrong with your body. You are fucked up. You have some type of curse. I don't know what curse, but you are cursed.
She thinks it's just a mental thing, but when you hear the bones crunching and rearranging, it literally can't just be a mental thing.
I, at the very least, believe you have the same disease that Samuel L. Jackson's character has in Unbreakable, and your bones are literally just made of glass, so you're contorting around in maybe drug withdrawals or something, and you're hurting yourself constantly, and your bones are shattering.
To be fair, you wouldn't have to have the disease from glass if you're going through bad enough drug withdrawals. You could just snap your ribs and stuff.
Not with the amount of sounds going on. There's too much. There's too much drinking.
Yeah.
You have to have the glass disease.
He is, again, his bones are being completely reconfigured from a typical biped build to a quadruped.
Yeah. But as they're talking, Aiden's just like, look, he has a condition, and yeah, sure, Josh has some things, going on. Everyone does, though. But, he's a good guy. He's a great roommate. He's a good friend. And she's just like, does he really have a lot of friends, though? That doesn't sound like Josh. And Aiden's just like, okay, yeah, he's kind of quirky, but I mean, like I said, he's a good guy.
He's got a friend and a ghost for a roommate.
Yep. And Emily eventually is just like, it's just my sweet, kind brother. He just went mad 2 years ago out of the blue. And, it happened to our mom too. She went mad, but, it's now she's back on the tennis court. The entire issue is filed away, forgotten about.
Also mentions that she's back doing the book circuits, which tells us that his mom's a writer of some sort.
Or she's an agent.
Fair enough. And so Aiden is trying to comfort her. He's kind of like, is there anybody I should call, to be with you or to help you out? And she's like, well, my girlfriend's upstairs waiting on me, so I'll just go up there.
Yep.
That's kind of the end of the scene.
So then we cut to Josh, who's just now arriving home.
And Sally is immediately apologetic.
She's like, I'm sorry I couldn't help. I really tried. I want you to know I tried. Is everything okay? Did everything turn out well? And Josh is like, well, I didn't kill my sister, so that's good, I guess.
And the whole time, Sally's excited about something, and she's like, I'm trying to figure out how long I need to wait between your tragedy and my good news. And he's like, just tell me what it is. She says, Danny's coming over. Aiden called him to fix the sink.
Yeah, so Josh is like, wait, what? Walks into the kitchen, and he's like, Aiden, wine. Aiden's like, she just really wanted Danny to come over. And then gestures towards the sink, which is backed up with a bunch of fucking water.
So then Danny does arrive, but Sally's way too excited.
And the living room lights flash and then shatter.
Yes. Josh and Aiden suggest that he can fix those after he takes a look at the sink.
Yeah, before Danny does come in, Josh and Aiden conclude that Sally has to wait at the top of the stairs.
Because some people can actually see ghosts. Not all, but like if they're spiritually open, and Danny is, he voted for Hillary. I love that joke. That he might be able to see her, so she needs to wait out of eyesight, because if he just sees his dead fiance, there's going to be problems.
So when the lights burst, Josh says he's going to go upstairs and starts to head up them, and Danny's like, the breaker's downstairs. And Josh is like, yeah, but I have a lot of things plugged in upstairs, like a lava lamp, a clock, and an extension cable plugged into another extension cable. Just a lot of stuff.
You're not supposed to daisy chain power cables, guys.
It's dangerous. It's a fire hazard. You shouldn't do it.
I think it's some like building districts and like cities, it is literally illegal.
I would assume probably in California, where they really don't like fire or sparks.
Honestly, it should be illegal if you live in any single building that has more than you and your family in it.
Yeah.
If you live in an apartment complex of any sort, daisy chaining should be illegal.
I would agree. So Aiden ushers Danny into the kitchen. She's like, look, we'll just deal with the pipes now, and then we can deal with the circuit breaker. So Josh is talking to Sally, and he's just like, you have to calm down. You have to calm down.
Yeah, and I think we mentioned earlier, but Sally doesn't know how she died.
Yeah.
And that's like one of the big things. She's like, if I know how I died, maybe I can move on. So as Danny is leaving and he was unable to fix the sink, he said he'll come back later.
Yeah.
Josh is like, hey, before you go, if it's not too weird, how did she die?
Yeah, which they get to that topic not just randomly out of the blue. They kind of work their way there, because Danny's asking them if anything's been creepy in the house, because some of the other tenants that have been there before and have mentioned that it's a bit odd or weird or creepy. And both Josh and Aiden are fairly nice about it. Josh is like, yeah, no, it has character. And Aiden's just like, it's a good character. And basically they're playing compliments to Sally in the guise of the house.
And so when they ask him how she died, he's like, well, faulty electrical. She wasn't able to turn on the hall light. So when she got up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night.
After we had just moved in, so we weren't really super familiar with the place yet.
She took a wrong turn, tripped, and fell down the steps. I found her right there on that landing.
Which she, at this point, is sitting next to, because she's progressively made her way down the stairs during their conversation.
Yeah, because she's terrible at
Yeah, she's like a child. She's not going to actually listen to you.
Yeah, exactly. And now she knows how she died, but it doesn't really help anything, and Danny leaves.
After they ask more about Sally and what she was like, and he talks about how great she was and the best thing that ever happened to him, and she smiles and she's all happy.
So then we get to the hospital, where Kara comes up to Aiden and once again propositions him to quote-unquote explore what they have.
And she's like, what are you talking about? And she's like, this thing between us. And she's like, at a point he stops paying attention to her and is focusing more on her heartbeat, and then eventually he bells when she also doesn't pick up the hint.
Yep. Josh is then walking outside the hospital in the courtyard area, the lawn.
And he sees someone standing in front of a little memorial the hospital has for Rebecca. And who could it be but Rebecca?
And she grabs him and takes him to a secluded area.
Well, I mean, she walks off, he follows, and then she pins him against a wall in what looks to be more of the area that's been approved for renovation.
And she goes to bite him. She's talking garbage about his roommate, Aiden, the entire time.
Yeah.
But she goes to bite him and then catches a whiff of him. And she apparently, in her days of being a vampire, is completely aware of what werewolf smells like, because she immediately identifies him.
I like to believe they just have a scrap of werewolf blood. I like to assume whatever panoply of monsters exist in this world, vampires who actively breed new vampires just have a range of blood. So okay, so this is what werewolf blood smells like. This is what, I don't know, a witch's blood smells like if it's different. This is what a fae's blood smells like.
This is what a Bigfoot's blood smells like.
This is what a mermaid's blood smells like. Don't know why you'd find one of those anywhere around here, but who knows?
Don't know. Well, it's Boston. It is a harbor.
This is what a hydra's blood smells like. Haven't seen one of those in a few thousand years, but we still have the blood for it.
I mean, if we're being fair, they probably do have a sample of werewolf blood or fur somewhere.
It would make sense.
Because drawing upon the ability of future knowledge.
Boo!
Werewolf blood is kind of toxic to vampires.
Yeah.
Like I said, drawing on the power of future knowledge. knowledge. I'm sorry.
It's a plot spoiler for future stuff.
Boo me.
It's super important later.
It comes out before it becomes an issue.
No.
Yeah?
No.
Okay, well, my apologies. Our entire show is spoilers, so, you know.
Boo.
But yeah.
So then Josh goes to confront Aiden, because as far as Josh knew, Rebecca was missing.
And as far as Josh now knows,
Aiden turned Rebecca into a vampire. And Josh is pissed because they're living in a house and trying to be human, and Aiden's off fucking turning people into vampires.
More importantly, though, I think Josh is angriest after this confrontation about the fact that Aiden is lying to him about turning Rebecca into a vampire from his point of view. Because, like, in his brain, only Aiden could have done that.
Yeah.
And so when Aiden's, like, acting surprised because he is surprised.
I mean, we haven't gotten to the part where he's talking about Aiden yet. He goes to talk, and then in this conversation, he gives Aiden information, and Aiden says he's surprised.
Mm-hmm.
Like, his initial upset is just the fact that he believes Aiden has made a vampire.
Yeah.
And then he gets more upset when he thinks Aiden's lying about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because Aiden isn't lying about it. He is surprised.
In fact, he's so surprised that he immediately goes to confront Bishop about it. He goes to Sapson's son's funeral home.
Which is not the name of the funeral home in the first episode. So either the vampires own multiple funeral homes
Why
throughout
wouldn't you?
Boston. Fair point. Or something changed between the pilot and this, which doesn't make sense because they're filmed as a...
Who knows?
I have to assume they just own more than one funeral home.
That's my assumption.
Which also, at least in the world of being human, explains why it is so hard to break into the field of mortuary sciences
Yep.
and funeral directors. It's because they're all vampires. They don't die.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they just keep doing the same job.
Yeah. So he gets there. Marcus is at a desk and goes to stand up, and Aiden immediately grabs him by the collar of his shirt. He's like, "What the fuck did you do? Where is she?" And Marcus is just like, "That's not how this goes anymore." And he's accusing...
Also, you'll have to be more clear because I don't know who she is.
Also, he implies that Aiden's weak because Aiden's been drinking bagged blood instead of fresh blood. When Bishop walks in, he's like, calm down. You're both pretty. And then he goes to talk to Aiden, and Aiden's just like, what the fuck? I asked for a simple favor, for a cleanup, and you turned her. That's not how this works.
And Bishop's like, yeah, but you see, you never ask for favors.
And you slip up so rarely.
So we had to know what was so special about her.
And honestly, I can see it. Maybe a little too feral, but you can help us break her in.
Indeed. And we also cut back to Sally at the apartment.
Yeah.
Where she is sitting at a table trying to turn the page in a magazine.
Yep. Tries to use her hand, doesn't work. Just trying to blow air at it.
And then there's a knock at the door.
And then the door opens, and in comes Danny with a toolbox and a book on plumbing for idiots.
It's Plumbing for Dummies.
Yeah.
It's from the For Dummies guide series. A guide series that has become much less useful now that the internet exists.
Yep. So he's getting ready to do plumbing stuff. And we changed scenes here, but we could just stick with Sally's scene and finish that one up.
Yeah, let's just stick with Sally and then we'll go back to Josh.
So she's talking at Danny as he's trying to do plumbing. And she's just like, I don't know why you're trying this. You're really bad at it. I'm the one that fixed everything. Why don't you just call someone? Why are you so stubborn? Why won't you notice me? Why aren't you even paying attention to me?
And during the scene, Danny steals from his clients because he pours himself a glass of coffee from their coffee maker. Using a glass that was Sally's but is now
his because he gave them everything with the apartment.
And like you said, she's recounting memories of like how the cup got a chip in it. And when he doesn't respond to her at all, she starts kind of losing it.
Yep.
And in her upset, her anger
causes a pipe to burst.
Yes.
And then we have the other people show up, but we should go back to the scene that was with Josh before this.
So Josh is once again where he spends most of his time in these episodes.
On a bench outside of the hospital, and he's talking to his sister again.
Well, he's not talking to her yet.
Yeah. He sees her, she sees him, she approaches him.
And he tries to walk off.
And she's like, you're not leaving. That's not how this works. You're not walking down my life again. I'm not going to let you do that.
She's like, look, I saw what you're going through yesterday, and it can't get any worse than that. So let me in. Let me help you. And he's like,
it does get worse. It gets a lot worse.
You don't understand. It gets so much worse. I can't do this. I can't be in your life. Just please don't tell anybody you saw me.
And he leaves. And
then he walks into the kitchen and is like, holy shit, Danny, what did you do?
Yeah.
And then he's like, look, I'll get a plumber. Josh just turned off the water main temporarily because water is just flooding the kitchen.
Yeah, and Danny's like, I'll do it when I leave. And then as Danny's leaving, he pauses right next to Sally and looks directly at her for a while and then leaves.
He doesn't actually see her, but like
he senses something. And then we're with Aiden, who is looking for Rebecca at a park because that's where Bishop mentioned she might be. She liked the amount of people,
the happiness,
the smell of blood,
and fresh meat. Yeah.
Yep.
So Aiden does see see Rebecca in the park.
Mhm.
She is rightfully upset that he left her for dead.
Yep.
And he's like, look, I didn't mean for you to become this. And she's like, oh, you just meant for me to be dead.
And he's
I
like,
get it.
kinda
That's so
like,
much better.
Yeah. She's like, well, thank you for turning me into this. Well, actually, thank Bishop. And he's just like, look, I know it feels really great at a point. And she's like, yeah, no, half the time I want to tear my skin entire life. He's like, yeah, it's pretty bad. She's like, the rest of the time, I'm a goddess. He's like, that's how you feel right now because it's a high, but it only gets worse.
And she's like, all I have to do to keep feeling this way is actually do what vampires do and eat live meat.
Feed. And he's like, it doesn't have to be like that. You and me, we can run away together. We can help each other be better.
She goes, oh yeah, we could go to a bed and breakfast up north and we could just eat all the other guests.
Well,
Sounds wonderful.
She says eat all the leaf peepers because upstate New York.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
upstate, not New York, upstate Massachusetts, foliage, tours, and stuff.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah.
But she then also talks about like wanting to hurt
Her father.
her father, her sisters. Basically,
Whoa.
he's Aiden is trying to be like, look, you have to remember the people that loved you. You have to keep yourself human, or you'll just become a monster. And she's like, forget the people that loved me. They all treated me like garbage. My father thought I'd never amount to anything,
We'll see what he thinks when I hold him by the throat and rip out his heart.
and my sisters always thought they were better than me because they found like partners and had children.
And we'll see what they think when I drain the life from their babies. And Aiden just gets a disgusted look on his face. And that's the end of their conversation because he walks the fuck away, which is what you do when someone threatens to just drink babies. You do not engage. That is the point you have hit the conversation. You're like, this is no longer a rational person I'm dealing with. I'm going to leave.
And then back at the apartment, Josh and Sally are talking in the wake of Danny leaving about who they were before.
Yeah.
In Josh's case, who he was before the camp was attacked by a werewolf and he transformed. And in Sally's case, who she was before she cracked her head on the landing of a staircase.
Yeah. And they're talking about like what they can do from there. And Sally is pointing out to Josh, like, you can still fix things. You can talk to your sister. You can talk to your family. You can
change things.
I can't do any of that. I just exist here, and I don't even know if I'll get a chance to see him again or like actually interact with him again.
And
that's so much worse.
And while this is going on,
Aiden's at a bar
getting drunk because he can't deal with the fact that he fucked up with Rebecca.
Yep.
And that has led to her being a vampire, which is in his mind the worst outcome a person could have. I mean, which I get it. It is a bad outcome, but like I think I would rather be a vampire than dead.
Yeah. And then who sees him but Kara? Because she went to this bar because this bar is close to where he lives.
And she comes over to say hello, and he kind of brushes her off initially, but then he like hears her heart beating and like can smell her, so he asks her to sit down and have a drink.
And they start talking, and as Aiden's starting to be more flirtatious, suddenly Rebecca pops into a seat next to him.
Well, not yet, because as he's becoming more flirtatious and he's hearing the pumping of her
Yep.
blood, he has this moment of clarity, which he's really good at having these single moments of clarity, where he's
and
like,
then ignoring them.
where he's like, oh fuck, if I keep going, I'm going to kill this girl. So he calls Josh, and he's like, look,
Oh, yeah.
I need you to come to the bar. Kara's here. You should come hang out.
And Josh is just like, I don't want to do that.
And Aiden's like, yeah, but Kara's here, and
You
I'm
should come.
alone.
And Josh is like, I really don't want to. I don't think I need to. And Aiden's just like, well, if you don't really want to, that's fine, I guess. And his voice is taking on more of like an airy tone or dreamlike. And then Josh is like, okay, fine, I'll be there in just a few minutes. Don't do anything.
And then Rebecca shows up, and she like immediately starts flirting with and touching Aiden to make Kara uncomfortable. And then Aiden's like, Rebecca, stop it.
And Kara's just like, wait, Rebecca? And then she pieces together that Rebecca is Rebecca from the hospital. And then she's not missing. And then she feels super awkward because she's also definitely heard that Rebecca and Aiden were somewhat together or possibly are interested in each other. So she gets up and leaves.
And Aiden like scolds Rebecca and is like, you should leave. Like, I don't know what you're doing here. And Rebecca's like, fine, I will leave. And just chooses a guy at random.
At first she's like, well, you said we could work this out together, help each other. And he's like, I meant help each other be clean. And she's like, well, we could get dirty first. And then he's like, no. So then she picks a random guy at a bar to leave with. Aiden tries to stop the guy from going with her, which results in a very brief one-sided fight, which Aiden wins.
Because even a vampire feeding on bagged blood is stronger than a human.
But when he turns around, Rebecca is gone.
And then we get the arrival of Josh, who finds Kara bleeding in the alley because Rebecca took Kara when Aiden was distracted.
So he goes to stop the bleeding when Rebecca like slams him towards the ground and just calls him a good dog again, which she did the first time she saw him.
And during the scene, Rebecca also, when Aiden arrives, is like, he could save her, you know? Like, he could stop her from dying, but he won't. And then she just leaves.
And Josh is like, can you save her? And Aiden's like, no, it wouldn't be saving her. And Josh seems skeptical hospital, but Aiden doesn't. And so we then cut to a hospital, assumingly their hospital, that's assumingly very close. And they're both just sitting in chairs in a waiting room. And Josh is like, so it's over then, right? This is the end. They'll trace Kara back to Rebecca back to you, and then we're both just fucked. We're done.
And that's where Aiden explains to Josh that there is a network of vampires, and this stuff happens
all the time.
But because vampires are in positions of power, and he's looking at Bishop while he's explaining this to Josh. Because Bishop, as a cop, is there. He's explaining to Josh that nothing will come of it because they protect their own kind.
Yeah.
So, like, even though Kara would point to Rebecca would point to Josh, Rebecca would point to Aiden, it'll never get that far because there'll be people in the way to prevent that.
Yeah.
And while this is happening,
Sally has decided, I'm gonna lay down exactly where I died.
Maybe this will, like,
help in some way, who knows?
And so we then have Josh. He watches his sister and her girlfriend leave the hospital.
Yeah.
He has a brief conversation with her.
Yeah, he kind of storms up to his sister and he's just like, look, things are different now. I'm different. My life is different. You cannot be involved in it.
You can't help me. You don't know me. You don't want to know this version of me.
I don't want you to know this version of me.
Leave me alone.
Just forget about me.
Kara then dies because...
And Aiden is around to watch it happen because he feels extremely guilty.
Bishop is also there. He's disappointed that Aiden let a nurse die instead of, like, converting her so they could use her to convert more people.
And have access to blood, I assume, possibly. And Bishop confronts Aiden. He's just like, look, you still want to feed, basically. And as you can see, you need us.
It's cold out there without us to help you out. If you don't have us, next time you slip up...
No one's going to be there to have your back. It's us or them.
And then Aiden's like, well, that was never really a choice at all, was it?
I might be stuck in hell here with you forever, but here, right now, it's them.
Then Josh and Sally, back at the apartment, obviously because Sally, they talk about Aiden, and Josh realizes that, well, he has just never really grasped how hard it is for Aiden to be around blood all the time, around people.
How hard it is just to be Aiden, because...
for every second of every day, because there's constant temptation for Aiden.
Yeah, Josh is a monster once a month. Aiden is a monster all of the time. So then he goes outside to the stoop,
where Aiden is sitting all sad and stuff,
and gives Aiden a coffee mug filled with who knows what. Alcohol, blood, hot chocolate. It's unclear. He was drinking whiskey earlier.
Probably blood and alcohol mixed.
Look, we know Aiden can't eat. Also, that's the end of the episode. Now let's continue on. Aiden can't eat, right? But we have seen him drink blood and alcohol, which implies somewhere around there that at least assumedly his liver is working, because that's assumedly cleaning the blood he's using.
Yes.
And then he doesn't get drunk. So
that
I'm aware of.
His inhibitions seem to be lowered both
when he's been drinking. And
so that would be the same as like a human getting drunk.
Yeah,
right?
which at that point it seems to imply that his body is like metabolizing the alcohol, which means at least to some degree his gastrointestinal system is still working,
but not well enough to process food.
Yes, but it also means his liver is assumedly working because he does sober up.
Oh, could you imagine if, as a vampire, your gastrointestinal system worked well enough to like process liquids, but your liver didn't? So if you ever drink, you would just be drunk.
That'd be fucked up. But
until you used all the blood that the alcohol like attached to.
And then so a lot of urine is basically kind of blood, which sounds like a weird statement, but it's not really wrong. It's used impurities in blood. It's weird and gross. Look it up. It's a fun thing. So assumedly, the vampires and being human do not shit, but they do piss.
Which was convenient because, like, if you never have to use the bathroom for hundreds of years, you're going to get into the habit of not having to use the bathroom.
And you're just not even, like, think to be, like, pretend to, so you appear normal.
Yeah. It's like in Twilight, how the Cullens have to pretend to breathe in order to, like...
Which, you know, those books making a bunch of things about, like, how hard they try to pretend to be normal humans. At no point does it ever be like, yeah, no, sometimes I just go sit in a bathroom for, like, 20 minutes, and honestly, it's so much easier to pretend to be human now, because I just pull out my phone, and, like, on some days, I'll just play like a YouTube video that's like 15 minutes long filled with fucking farting noises. Because before it was always weird. People would be like, you never make any noise when you go shit. Like I never hear anything fall in like the latrine. You don't grunt. You don't do anything. You're just calmly passing stool. It's the weirdest fucking thing ever, man.
I think that's when, like, as a vampire, you just go into the bathroom with like a pocket full of like twigs. Just so you could, like,
destroy
them.
people's plumbing? That's so rude.
Oh, no, you fish them out before you flush.
So you just have wet sticks in your pocket.
No, you put them in the back of the toilet.
Sticks.
You put them in the commode.
Someone's gonna catch on eventually. People look at the tanks of their toilet.
Yeah, they'll just be confused why somebody put sticks in their toilet. Anyways, that is the end of episode 2. Justice, what are your thoughts on Being Human episode 2?
I'd watch more just to find out if Aiden pisses canonically in the show.
I hate to disappoint you, but it's never confirmed.
Damn. But no, I honestly would watch more. The characters are the main driving impetus of the show. Aiden's struggling with his addiction. Josh is struggling with his trauma of being a werewolf, and Sally's dealing with ghost stuff.
Her inability to move on.
Yeah, I'm aware. I realized I could mention a serious thing or just call it ghost stuff, so I chose ghost stuff.
Ghost stuff. Yeah, fair enough.
It was more lighthearted. Look, I had a very serious conversation about piss. I wanted to be more lighthearted. I'm sorry.
Fair enough.
Would you watch more of this?
Yeah, this episode is just more of the first.
Yeah, very much so.
Everything from the first episode is still relevant in the second episode. Everything I said in the first episode is still relevant in the second episode. This is just a good show with good characters and good story. And even if they weren't literal monsters, which I argue ghosts aren't necessarily monsters.
Yeah, ghosts aren't the subclasses of ghosts. Depends.
Yeah.
Poltergeist, shades, banshees,
Reapers.
Mm-hmm. Those are all what I would call monsters, but I would not call a ghost a monster.
Yeah, ghosts are just like...
Ghost is the vanilla NPC version of those.
Ghosts...
It is not the mob monster you fight.
Ghosts are just corporeally challenged people, that's all.
True.
Like, that'd be like calling a crippled person a monster because they couldn't walk.
They're just differently able.
Yeah, just like, yeah, I think calling ghosts monsters is kind of like discriminatory.
You know what? I would agree.
Anyways, that was Being Human, the US version. I know we don't normally tell you the next episode. The next episode we're doing is Being Human, the UK version.
Because it
is Halloween time. It has come. We are starting a little early because
we already have plans for October.
And because if Christmas can continue to expand forever, so can Halloween.
Eventually, we're only going to review topics that we can tangentially relate to Halloween.
Or Christmas. Those 2 months become the entire year. Woo! So, like, November through, like, April is Christmas?
No,
and
only through February.
Okay. Christmas gets 4 months. Halloween's the rest of the year.
Yep.
I'm down with that. If you want to contact with us and tell us your favorite spooky shows or favorite television shows, because I know we've harped on about how Being Human is one of our favorite shows.
Yeah.
You can do that a myriad of ways. The best way is and forever will be at our Gmail account at copilotsreview@gmail.com.
You can find us on X at copilotsreview.
For now, Elon's wanting to make it where you have to pay to even like log into your accounts.
Oh, that's gross.
Yeah. So,
we will make a Blue Sky at some point when we ever get invited.
Yes. But otherwise,
we have a Hive where you can find us on at Copilots Review.
But otherwise, you can find us at copilotsreview.simplecast.com, which has links to all the relevant things, as well as our Patreon, which is also a relevant thing.
Yeah.
And our email, which again, best way to reach out to us. Thanks for flying.
And please fly again soon.